So I was thinking we'd do more of a kind of a performative element with kind of like a sonic experiment where we would have these kind of chance encounters of our writing. But I don't think with the numbers we have, I think we can actually maybe attempt a real Renga um, if we're so inclined. But anyway, before we get to that, um, I'm going to have us do what I originally. So a lot of the prompts in the Renga are stanza specific, and I figured because of the time constraints, I'd have us work essentially with a line rather than a stanza, just to kind of cut down on the workload a little bit. So the first part of a Renga, just to give you some sense, I guess, of an historical backdrop. The Renga actually means linked poem, and it was a party game. It was something that originated among the rich and aristocratic at first, like a lot of art, and then eventually it finds its way into the commoners, and they wreak havoc with it, which is how it usually works. Then the language it starts off with like courtly love and warriors and war and things like that. And then the commoners get a hold of it, and then they start writing about getting drunk and flatulence. And then they kind of meet halfway and start talking about, nature, which everyone can kind of agree on.
Mark, can I interrupt for a second? Yeah. I lost the video. Is there something I can do? I just moved my computer.
Oh boy.
I know. I lost the picture.
That's weird. You might just have closed the program might just be minimized. That's all I can think if you're on your computer.
No, I'm on my computer and it's a big Zoom face on it. And then Zoom, icon is down at the bottom of it, but I'm afraid.
So click on that.
Touch on the icon.
Right, the one that's on the screen or
on the bottom?
The Zoom one.
The Zoom one. Oh, there we go. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Safe.
Okay, here I am.
So yeah, these ventures were usually done with at least two people, but oftentimes with many people. And they started doing them in bars, and it was kind of like it was. Some people have compared it to everything from hip hop to Dungeons and Dragons, where there was this kind of collaborative effort, and where people would play it in a competitive way. And that's where they would kind of work their chops out, and it would be very competitive. There'd be challenges, there'd be tests. It was a fluid thing. It was constantly changing because your adversaries would come up for ways to kind of trick you or to stump you. And so it's interesting that a type of verse that turned into something so reverent and something that we think of oftentimes as kind of having a spiritual or at least a kind of Zen kind of attribute to it, ends up being something that probably got its start in a bar. So the linked poem would be anywhere from 36 to 100 stanzas. Whoa. 36 is usually the norm. Wow. 100 was the most they would go, and then usually 50. Those were usually the three that they would stick with. It's where haiku came from. It came from the word hoku, and essentially it means the opening or the presenting stanza. And another definition for the word for haiku actually is the word playful or sportive. So another thing that kind of goes against the kind of the picture that we have of the verse. It's always been very fluid, and it makes sense that we have that Zen thing of change being the only constant, and the same thing can be said of these poems. So it essentially would be this collaborative effort where people would go back and forth, three lines, 2 lines, 3 lines, 2 lines. So it's where haiku eventually came out of, and haiku is the presenting stanza, and supposedly it's the only stanza that's factual. So it's where you kind of give, it's almost like you were on a CB radio. You give your call, you tell people where you're from, and it's kind of like, wearing your hometown college shirt or something, where you kind of kick things off and say, and away we go. And then, of course, tanka ends up being derived from that. And those 3-2 combine, and then we've got that idea of the 3 lines, which are like a haiku, and then what they would refer to as the two lines, which were called the capping lines. And so anyway, the funny thing is, I've done a lot of reading about Renga, and the funny thing is not even in no book that I've looked at, not even the Princeton book of poetry, well, that was the only one that I found some reference to some of these prompts or cues or restraints that they use. And I was thinking how, in some ways, I mean, my specialty is modernism, and I was thinking in a lot of ways, there's a lot of overlap, there's a lot of similarities between, we think of modernism as using a lot of artifice, which is true, and for a lot of the work to be done on the surface. But if you look at it, some of the things that they have in common is that fluidity, the fact that they come back to this thinking that everything is unconstant, uncertain, ever-changing, strange juxtapositions. A lot of you modernists were reading Eastern verse at the time. We think of Pounds at the Metro. We think of 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird, which really are just, 13 haiku-like pronouncements, certainly more abstract in this case. And also poems like The Red Wheelbarrow really reads just like a linked haiku in some regards. All these poems have to do with, have that Zen quality of being mindful, being attentive, being in the moment, and also looking at things that are transitory, things that are ephemeral. They also, they were often fragmentary in nature, which is something that the modernists were all about. And also we have this illogical, these seemingly illogical cues or restraints that they would use. We think of, things like moon and flowers as being pretty typical, but you got to remember that people established these tropes. They didn't come down from God. Well, you might believe they came down from God. But essentially these cues were arbitrary at time. Why the moon and not the sun? Why flower and not tree? There was actually, one of the things I found was, one of the other things, some of the requirements that they're negative requirements. One of the things I read was an insect can only be mentioned once in 100 verses, which seems very strange. Another thing that they would do is they would embed their place of residence inside the words. I thought that was very modernistic-like. So in other words, I came up with the one, every-eyed deer. And of course, we've got the RY at the end of every and the I of I, and that would be rye in there. Hobo's tongue would be Boston. So essentially, they would actually try to, they were doing this on the spot, by the way. I mean, they probably gave it some thought. They probably showed up and they were like, I am really going to kick ass this time around because I've embedded Portsmouth in, in a way that no one's ever done it before. And then also too, the use of kind of found objects. In some ways, even though these would have been familiar objects to them, these were things that were picked out ahead of time and made as requirements. They also, we were talking today, I think Misako, am I saying it right?
Yes.
She was talking about that. I think she was talking about the wabi-sabi and that idea of the imperfect. And of course, all all countries have had their poems go through this process where they start looking at things that are, you know, reaching after beauty, that are flawed in some way or incomplete. There was something to do with the video there that we saw, talked about, I forget exactly, about imperfection. So the subject matter started to change. We went from courtly love and battles to writing about things like, you know, a boy shaking sand out of his shoe, or a lifeguard flag, or Broadway tunes coming out of the neighbor's house. And those were things that were all, you know, invited at that point. So anyway, that's where this idea of nature came about. That's where this idea of the seasons or the Kigo that we talked about earlier. But yeah, then they also had these other strange requirements. One of the ones I read was you could only use the word dream 1 out of 7 verses, stanzas. I don't know what would happen. You'd probably have to drink, go up to the bar,
Pay to
drink a
test.
shot or something. I don't know. So anyway, of course, the most popular ones are Moon. And Moon actually shares its origin with month, and I'm sure it has to do with the tides and all of those type of things. And also, of course, flowers. Cherry blossoms were very popular. And so what I thought we would do is, I think we can try a real Renga here, because with just the...
It'll be fun.
Is Cindy here, or is she?
I think she's really here. Cindy? She hasn't been able to speak.
Okay,
Okay.
I think I was able to change my settings, so I have the audio now.
There she is.
I think.
Yeah, we hear you.
Hear you.
All right, so what we need to do is we need to, I'm going to write a list of the order, because I don't think we see the same order, right?
Dibs on insect? Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. We should have that, the first requirement.
I want to embed Mississippi.
So I'm going to go with
You
me.
do that.
I'll start things off. I'm going to go with Tammy after that, and then Mimi. So remember where you are in this order. And then S, and then Barb, and then Cindy. Is that right?
Okay.
There's one more on as a non-video participant. I don't know
Is
who
that
it
the
is.
that might be the public library one.
That's Laura. Laura, do you want to play?
No, I'm gonna abstain. Thank you, though.
You're smart.
Another time.
Okay. So Mark, will you be very specific about your expectation?
Yeah.
I don't have any.
Well, how many
Uh,
lines?
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
to know a little
All we're
bit.
going to do is we're going to keep ourselves to the 3 and 2, okay? And so what we're going to do is, I think what we'll do, I'll have everyone do is I'll give us some cues or requirements,
Okay.
but we won't be held to them.
Cool.
And so what we're going to do is going to have, I'm trying to figure this out because this is going totally, what I was going to have us do is I was going to have, if there were more people, I was going to have us all essentially just write tanka and then just kind of have a free-for-all and try to create this kind of sonic where people would come in and out. Sometimes it would be garbled. Sometimes it would be doubled up on and like have a chorus effect, but we don't really have to do that now. So the first stanza is site or location. And that's the one that's supposed to be only done in fact. I think the idea is so we know historically where this has been perpetrated.
Is that the first 3 lines then?
The first, yes, the first 3.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll have us do those. Why don't we do, let me see. 3, 2, 3, 2. So we'll do a sight poem for 1, 3 lines of sight poem. And then we'll do 2 for the moon. So that will be our first kind of tanka.
Sure.
And then we'll do 3 with flowers. And then I'm going to go into the magic cheese. We'll see how this takes shape. I actually came up with some bonus cards. So we go random. I should have a cheese it while I'm at it. These
No,
are all
I'm
different
not- I
names
wanna
of moon.
cheese it.
These are all names of different types of moon. Anyone know what the August moon is called?
No.
Oh, no.
They have several names.
Depends on the tribe.
Oh boy. All right. Well, it's not my favorite, but we got to go with what the fates deliver us.
Corn.
Yeah.
Corn.
So 2 lines on corn.
So we have 2 lines on corn. Now remember,
Now, who's writing what?
we're
Who,
all doing one. We're all doing these.
we're all doing these.
We're all
Yeah.
doing all of these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, oh dear. Okay, so,
What was the first 2 before moon?
yeah,
Site and location.
site,
That's like where you are.
So where you are.
SITE?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that's the first tanka, really. 3 and 2, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
2 is moon.
2
And-
is moon and 3 is flower.
2 is moon, and then we
I
go,
don't like corn.
3 is flower,
So you
I got a
mean
better one.
and
all
then
combined to make a tanka? When you
Thunder.
all-
I like
Thunder
thunder.
instead of corn.
Thunder instead of corn.
okay, so
Okay.
2 on thunder, right?
So 3 lines on where we are, where you are.
Yeah,
And remember, this does, even though it is factual, it is poetry. And then 2 lines on the moon,
okay,
3 lines on a flower,
okay.
and 2 lines on thunder.
Is there any length or syllabic count?
No, we got enough going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so-
And
all right,
Mark,
so
can you slide from the first lines into the second, or are
of
they,
course you can.
are they end stopped?
No, you can do whatever you like. This is asking too much as it is.
I quit.
No, you can't. Okay, how long do we have?
Oh, by the way, the August moon is sturgeon.
Oh, like it's named after the fish.
Yeah, the fish.
Because the sturgeon come up to the surface, I think, during
It must be the time of year they're prevalent
That's
and can be
exact-
Native Americans can hunt them.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Like it. Okay, how long do we have to write this?
Well, we've got a while, at least 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
No, let's
Okay.
say 10 minutes.
And you're gonna bring us back in 10 minutes? What time is it? It's 7:27.
And then we're going to read it in the order that we were told and see if
Right.
it makes a ranga
Yeah.
or a
When-
spaghetti.
When we read it, do we read our separate things, or do we each read the moon line and each read the,
That's a good question, Barbara. We
Let's
will
try
do-
both ways.
I think we'll do a 3 and a 2, 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 3 and a 2, a 3 and a 2, a 3 and a 2, like that. So we'll do sight and the moon, everybody, and then flowers and thunder, everybody.
Okay.
And if we screw up, who cares?
And the goal isn't that it makes sense. Those 100 linked rangas couldn't have really made all that much sense, could they?
They were drunk by the time they got to 80.
Oh, and realistically, we'd be responding to each other. But if we did that, we would really be, we'd be waiting for each person to finish.
We're
Yeah,
gonna
We'd
do
be
that the
here
next
until
time
about
we meet.
11.
gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
Alright.
Bye. So no literal like 166 Lock Road.
If you want to be literal, you can.
okay.
Thank you.
166 Lock Road.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you want to be metaphorical, if you want to, yes, play around with the prompt. Don't you don't have to take the prompt that seriously.
Okay.
Oh, and by all means, steal from your earlier, S wasn't here, so she's at a disadvantage. But by all means, steal from your earlier work if you so if you can.
Okay.
And of course, you can always insert the month and think about the season. It'll always go along. One of the things they were really big on was proper nouns. They like to name call. They like to call out names. Thus where they're from, and so it's kind of like a clannish thing, I think. So people knew where they were from, who they were representing. Believe me, the original conceit I had was much easier than this. How's everyone doing?
Good,
Couple more minutes?
please.
All right.
Maybe one. Doesn't make sense anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I want to try it for a party game someday.
I never go to parties.
You would for this, ain't maybe.
Is this a party?
No.
Wow, this is so cool.
Someday we'll have one.
Okay.
I had my first introduction to Bill Knott was a big haiku fan, and I still have the printouts he gave me from the late 1980s.
Who was this?
Bill Knott, my mentor, and one of the books that he told us about was a book called The 100 Frogs or 100 Frogs, and it's 100 translations of Basho's The Ancient Pond, A Frog
Yeah.
Jumps In, Splash. And so I finally picked up a copy of that. They even have, talk about irreverent. Some of them look like, he writes them and they're very kind of, they're a little wacky. Someone wrote a sonnet, and Ron Padgett has one. It's something like, I think I stole the idea from him. He says a frog, ancient pond, frog jumps in. Oh, geez, what's the Alka-Seltzer one? Fizz, fizz.
Plop, plop.
Plop, plop.
Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. So that gave me the idea for these poems that I wrote called High Tekus.
Oh.
And the idea was they would start off like they were these somewhat wild translation of Basho's Ancient Pond. And then when I get to the third line, the same thing would happen because your moment of nature was interrupted by a commercial because so many of us only experience nature on television. And I actually got those poems. This is a place that wouldn't even give me a whiff. Like, I wouldn't even have sent to them, but the Chicago Review had a issue on mass communication, multimedia, something along those lines. And they surprisingly enough took those. But yes, so I strongly recommend getting the 100 Frogs.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's got a lot of them are Brits, who, you know, early part of the century, and they're kind of snobby about it. And then here's Ron Paget's old pond, frog jumps in, plop plop, fizz fizz. But there's some famous people in there, and some of them are concrete. This one's awful. This one's by this guy George M. Young, who goes, oh, that one's not. I don't even think I can. That's too irreverent. So anyway, are we all set?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Trying to find the.
Order?
All right. So what we're going to do? We got the order? Everyone got the order?
I follow Tammy.
I follow Mimi.
But I don't know what I'm going to give you when it's my turn. Am I giving you?
We're going to all read the. We're going to read 5 and 5. So we're going to read.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to read the site location and the moon
And
for
then
the
someone
first
else read
round.
yeah.
And then read the flowers and the thunder
the second
for the
round.
second round.
Okay.
So
If we pull this off, it will be a miracle.
okay.
Is Barbara there?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, we lost Barbara.
Barb, where are you?
Jesus, Barbara, you had a spot in the boat.
There she is.
Oh, there you are.
She
Okay.
surfaced.
I'm still finishing the poem.
All right, well,
Make it up when you get to you.
yeah, we're
Time's up.
we're going barroom rules right now.
You're getting really nasty, Barbara. I'm sorry.
So we're doing 3, each doing 3 and 2.
No, we're doing 5 and 5. Everyone's doing a
That's
round
right.
of 5, and then a second round of 5.
Yeah.
So
Got
the
it?
first half and then the second half.
Right.
Yeah.
We
Think I
got
threw
Mark,
it.
Tammy, Mimi, S, Barb, Cindy, and so on.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
At the end of the world, where birds draw together and wonder dwells, I smell the moon where the flowers fell.
From the living room of my little cottage in Elliott, not too far from Sturgeon's Creek, the moon calls the fish to come, surface, see.
A barn, a house, a workshop, an orchard, and tucked in the northwest corner, Abigail Locke, age 7. Who named the August moon? Mimi did, lying in the dark, swallowing stars.
Tall pines tower over this land, shading garden, birdbath, and pool. Once called Stag Run, deer still visit at dawn. At night, the moon plays peekaboo through the boughs. Ghosts of natives bask in moonlight.
Was
I think we missed US.
yeah, I was supposed to go after Mimi.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead now.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
Here under brick and evening, I hear the train whistle as it crosses the sea. The August moon rises like arches. Whoop. Oh, the August moon rises like arches.
Yeah.
What's that music coming from?
I don't know. Someone's
Sounded
phone.
like a ringtone. I just temporarily muted Mimi so that you could continue. You can unmute herself when it's over.
Okay, yes. We were doing so well there.
Sorry, but we can do the next set.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh, wait, we still got
Yeah.
Oh, where's
Cindy.
Cindy?
right here. In the valley, moving toward the lake, at the water's edge. Heat of the day has freed the moon, visible now in the evening.
All right, those were so good. I want to hear them again without interruption. So ready? We're going to start again. S, you go. You go.
Oh, before me.
Fourth,
Yeah.
all right? Because I just want to. I want to get the full effect.
Okay.
It was so good. I was really quite taken. It was very lovely.
All right.
At the end of the world, where birds draw together and wonder dwells, I smell the moon where the flowers fell.
From the living room of my little cottage in Elliott, not too far from Sturgeon's Creek, the moon calls the fish to come, surface, see.
A barn, a house, a workshop, an orchard, and tucked in the northwest corner, Abigail Lock, age 7. Who named the August moon? Mimi did, lying in the dark, swallowing stars.
Here under brick and evening, I hear the train whistle as it crosses the summer river. The August moon rises like a fish, arches the hot sky.
Tall pines tower over this land, shading garden, birdbath, and pool. Once called Stag Run Road, deer still visit at dawn. At night, the moon plays peekaboo through the boughs. Ghosts of natives bask in the moonlight.
In the valley, moving toward the lake, at the water's edge. Heat of the day has freed the moon, visible now in the evening.
Ants file along the leaf towards the moonshine, white as processed flour. And I smell the thunder also, and the words that ward off trouble.
But they can't see to the top of the banks, where the flowers have become blueberries. The bushes rise high, calling for rain, a clap of thunder.
Peach blossom, apple blossom, obituaries of forbidden fruit. Find me, remember me, devour my sweet juice. Who cracked open the earth? Whose thunder awoke me as blessing?
She's muted.
Sorry. Even the yellowing reeds and cattails choke on this heat and call out to their sky gods for rain, wince at the dry thunder.
Red, orange, yellow flowers offer a palette that rivals an artist's pad of color. Roses can't bloom here, for shade hides their petals, but oh, begonias dazzle the eye. Hear thunder rumble in the distance. The god of thunder blesses the grass.
Fragrance from August blooms, invisible yet intoxicating, sweetly heady. Fronts collide and boom. Sound only, moonlight only.
All right, I just want to say, everyone rocked that.
It's great. Really great.
That was really phenomenal.
I think we should type it up and send it. I'd be glad to type it. I'm very slow, but if everybody sent it to me, I could put it in that order.
Okay.
Tammy, could you post it? As
Yes, I can.
something that we did
Yeah.
together as a culminating, because that's sort of what Mark's doing is like
I'd be happy to do that. Sure.
up in a knot, a bow, not a knot.
Yeah, what we can do is,
I'll be right. I'll keep that thought. I'll be right there.
Let me just write down your names, the order we were. Mark, Tammy, Mimi.
Mark, Mimi. Oh, I missed
No.
Tammy.
Tammi. MES,
Barb and Cindy.
Barbara, and Cindy. Yeah, and we
Okay.
can send, and we can type. We'll type them up and send them to you.
Okay.
You know what I wasn't sure of is, like, I know that you have to have moon in two lines or whatever, but I wasn't sure if you had to say moon, the actual word, or
You didn't. In fact, one of the things with this exercise, part of it is you can actually say the moon, or you can suggest the moon, invoke the
Okay, yeah.
moon,
because I
whatever it
had
is.
thunder twice, and I kept thinking maybe I don't need to say. I had sonic boom, and then I
Yeah, I
changed.
had flower earlier, and then I used FLOUR, flower, for the next one, so I wouldn't repeat. But whatever
Oh.
it was worked tremendously, because there wasn't really a weak link in the chain. It really went off quite impressively.
Now, I don't have Barbara's email. How would I send it to Barbara?
I can put it in the chat. So you're all going to
Oh.
send them to me, and then I put them in order, or are you sending them to Tammy?
Why doesn't everybody send to me?
Okay.
And then
Okay.
we want to do 2 steps.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Cindy, I will type that out for you right now.
Okay.
Mark, I think changing the thunder made a huge difference.
Yeah, if we would have got stuck with corn, it would have collapsed.
Near the end, a corn. It would be like having the word belly or something, you know, like, what do you do with that?
It would have been the end. Sometimes, it's like Duchamp said about chance. He said, it's my version of chance.
Oh,
I can't get over how good it was.
And
it really flowed and made sense and everything.
they really did. They really
it just
spoke.
shows you how flexible we are with language if we let ourselves be.
They really spoke to each other.
So next August, let's get together and do this in a bar like this.
All right.
And a couple of, I know people have been talking about books. I know Tammi was suggesting this earlier, and I was holding up as
I have
well,
that, yeah.
echoing her thoughts. Very nice. Definitely The 100 Frogs. This just came out by New Directions. Ironically, I had never heard of him, and then I picked my Bill Knott paper up, and there's Hiroaki Sato right there. I love when that happens. How you doing?
Yeah.
What's that book
And,
called?
I mean, we're talking 30 years later, and I'm reading a book, finally reading a book.
What's
I
it?
know that
Wait a minute, I missed the author on the
Hiroaki Sato's, and it's called On Haiku. It just came out about a year ago. I highly recommend that one. And then, of course, Mimi knows this one. It's not all
Yeah.
on haiku, but it's got a great
I love
chapter on
it.
haiku.
Yeah, chapter 3.
And she really knows what she's in. This one here, Seeds from a Birch Tree, Writing Haiku in the Spiritual Journey. It's kind of got a memoir element to it. And that's our Clark Strand. I highly recommend that one. And that's it. I just had my little basho.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's a
But,
cute basho.
Yeah.
Basho that I have has a good intro, a Penguin edition, and it's a long history of the haiku.
You know who writes the introduction?
No, I don't.
No.
Mm-mm. No.
Well, everyone, it's
You know,
close.
the interesting part is the longer I wrote these, the easier they came, and the
Interesting.
more poetic they were along the lines.
Well, these, yeah, I had the sense, I had no idea which direction people would go.
Huh.
And my sense, at first I was feeling trepidation because I was like, oh boy, we're really kind of winging this here. And not that I doubted everyone. I mean, I knew you'd pull it off. But then when people were saying I need more time, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on here?
You needed some duct tape, to fix it.
Yeah, but it's funny. It even had a similar tone to it.
Did.
It had like a little bit of that, I think the talk beforehand, the sense that it had a little bit more kind of a Western sensibility to it. I think everyone brought their strengths to it.
In their reverence that you would,
Reverence, yeah. And
had a
found a way to meld the two things.
Yeah. Had
And
a-
I love that something had to be literal because I liked working with the literal throughout in a way
Hmm.
as a
Yeah, 'cause
foil.
I wasn't too literal because I had my location as at the end of the world.
I know that's where you were. That was scary.
I was going to write at the end of the street because we're on a cul-de-sac, but I figured why not just have it at the end of the world?
But it didn't necessarily stay literal all the way, because all of a sudden I found I was putting in ghosts of natives, and it was going in other directions,
Yeah, yeah.
which was interesting.
Mm.
Thunder gods, you know.
Yeah, and we didn't, we didn't have, the funny thing is, it seemed like we were actually responding to each other.
It did.
The ironic thing is we had no idea what the other people were. I mean, I do have a sense of how, you wonder what your subconscious is actually, coming up with at that point, because knowing what we know of each other and, yeah, but it was fascinating.
But I remember doing a workshop where we passed the paper, you wrote a line, and then you passed the paper
Right,
to the right, and it came out awful.
Sometimes, you do it wasn't a surrealistic episode, but those things they're a crapshoot.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of them with my students. And if you had some serious minded folk, you could come up with some really magical stuff. And then if you were, I'd get a lot of monkeys and, monkeys with
Okay,
party hats.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
well, I'd have to tell them, like, even though we're playing off of chance and whatnot, I'd have to tell them, can't make fun of your classmates.
You had to have some
I have to give them all these restrictions. You can't use insect more than once.
Oh, God.
That reminds me of the time I had kids write Sestina in groups in high school.
Yeah.
And then we voted which one we liked the best, and they had to come up with their 6 words. And when one group read theirs, they took all of the swear words off of the desk, like all the graffiti that had been written on the desk.
Oh, geez.
So they ended, each word was a swear word, like more disgusting than the other one.
What did you do?
Well, first I let them read it, and then I said, could everybody please hand me your poems? So I had it, so it wasn't going to float around the building. Look what the poet did today.
Right, exactly. What have they been up to?
Have you come back again? And I said, I want to talk about cliches. Cliche.
So you used it
Swearing
as
is
an
on the tip of your
opportunity.
tongue. It's right there. Actually, it's right on the desk. So, can you go deep? Anyway, but I remember the first thing I thought was get a hold of that paper. Just get a hold of that paper.
Yeah, one well-placed one might have been okay.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's right. It would have been okay. Anyway, they thought they were very clever, and I guess they were for high school kids.
They were. They're probably still talking about it.
They probably was a crazy person. Mark, that was so much fun.
Yeah,
it was.
It was fun. Thanks for indulging us, Mark.
I know we're leaving, but I wanted to all invite you. I think it's still time. You can go to Star Island. They have a sunset cam,
Oh, wow.
and you can watch every night the sun set over the ocean.
Ah,
So you
didn't
go to
know
Star
that.
Island website. What do you go to?
I Google Star Island and then put in sunset cam.
okay.
Cool.
It's so cool.
I mean, I can see from I don't know if you can see. Can
Yeah.
you see that sky?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
that's why I mentioned it, because mine is really pink.
Yeah.
No.
A beautiful sky. Well, I'd like to say hats off to Tammi.
Yeah.
It's not been
Yes.
an easy time to be the poet laureate, and you managed to do something that was innovative and
Yes.
interesting and created community. Here we are, and we were earlier at another one that I was at, and
Yeah.
Talk about adapting. Thank you so
Yes.
much for putting this all together. And
yeah,
And you took
Every
someone who really doesn't like haiku and turned me into somebody who's more open now and says, oh, this might be fun.
Good.
yeah, I'm doing a daily practice now.
Yes.
I mean, I just started a few days ago, but
Oh.
yeah, I really like it. Yeah, I do.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate it.
much.
Tammi,
But Tammi, I like your idea of everybody meeting up in a bar and doing it.
Next summer.
It's gonna be a
Yeah.
while, S, so just, hang in
Yeah,
there.
I
Yeah.
think we should do it at the when the book and bar reopens with
Yes.
musical accompaniment.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, yeah, well, yeah, perfect. Okay, well, something to look forward to.
Renga, Renga.
Thank you, Public Library.
Thank you, Laura, very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you, of
Thank
course.
you for your hard work
Library.
and bearing with us.